What's up, everybody? It is Izzy. Welcome to another episode of the Q&A. I think we're on 119 today. So that said, if you'd like to see another 119 episodes, hit the like button. But actually, if you'd like to see even one more, hit the like button. Another 119 is a bit of a big ask. First question. Can bouncing your reps on squat, bench, and deadlift meaningfully alter the strength profile? On squats, I would say no, but on bench and deadlift, absolutely. It will depend on how hard you're bouncing for the most part, though. However, it's very common, for example, for someone to be able to do their 1 rep max on a dead stop deadlift for 3 or 4 reps touch and go, and you're probably not going to fail off of the ground if you're bouncing off of the ground. Likewise, for somebody who usually fails off the chest in a bench, if you just bounce through your sticking point, you're not going to fail there either. How to stay in your quads on Smith squats. At RPE 9 to 10, there is slight knee shoot back. So if we're being very technical here, the second that you have a slight knee shoot back, you failed the set from a technical RPE perspective. So that's not a true RPE 9 to 10. You're actually going beyond failure. That said, this is just my opinion. It's a squat. You don't need to make it a quad isolation exercise. A little kickback is fine. How long should I rest between my final warm-ups and my work set? Should I rest between my warm-ups? I generally do not rest between my warm-up sets except to change weights and or to watch video of my form if I'm reviewing form as I'm warming up. As far as how long to rest in between your last warm-up and your work set, that's just going to be personal choice. Do whatever gives you the best performance, which in general I would say is somewhere between 2 minutes at the least or so, and 5 minutes at the absolute most. This also kind of depends like how you warm up. If you're just doing like a single at 90% of your work set weight for your last warm up, you may need less rest in between that and your actual work set. I get massive chest DOMs from DB flies. I don't really get delayed onset muscle soreness from other chest movements. Should I do more flies? I don't think you need to do more flies. I don't think there's any kind of a ratio for pressing and flies, okay? I would just pair flies with the pressing movement, as most of the time, most pressing movements aren't actually going to stretch your chest, whereas flies will always give you a maximal stretch on your chest. So they pair well together, and then just allocate volume to each movement as is necessary for you to keep progressing on that particular movement. Any nightlife suggestions in the Seattle or Bellevue area? Honestly, I haven't been out in Seattle in like 6 or 7 years. The best nightlife spots in a city can change all the time. That said, Seattle has some of the worst clubs of any major city in the country. It's just not the Seattle aesthetic, man. Like, go to the dive bars. That's where people will be. That's where you'll have the most fun. Try Capitol Hill. What is the best press for side delts? Well, first of all, you shouldn't be pressing just for side delts. The reason why I recommend overhead pressing for delts is because most people are just full of shit. You do not have good front delts, but bad side delts. That's such a rare thing to have happen. It'd be just like if somebody said, I have huge medial and lateral triceps, but my long head is just super tiny. This is just something that you've created in your head, right? Because most triceps exercises train all 3 heads. So maybe one can be lagging a little bit, but it's not to the point where you only need to train one head, right? That said, the best presses for side delts are going to be vertical presses. Upright dumbbell seated presses, behind the neck presses, and even things like high incline presses if they're done in the frontal plane, which means elbows out wide to avoid recruiting chest with elbows in. Does semaglutide cause muscle loss? My doctor is recommending it to me for weight loss. No, it does not cause muscle loss in active training populations. However, in a very high percentage of people, anecdotally, that I've talked to, nausea and upset stomach are a real problem. And the other thing is that this drug is highly effective. It, for some people, can absolutely crush their appetite to the point where they cannot effectively do a massing phase while using it. So unless you're one of these people that has just a massive appetite that you can't control, I would probably just try to diet the old-fashioned way if you're natural. I started lifting at the age of 30. Can I be a world record holding powerlifter? So the odds of anybody becoming a world record holding powerlifter are almost 0%. Think of all the people that lift weights, there's only like 4 records and like 11 weight classes for the all-time world records, right? Now, of course, there's a million other records for like Masters 2, Firefighter, 148 or something. But if we're talking about legitimate all-time world records, there isn't very many of those. So you didn't have good odds to begin with, and now you have even less of a good chance because you're starting at 30. However, is it completely impossible if you have insane genetics? No, but you'd probably know if you had insane genetics by now. Do you think steroids are not that bad? There are lots of high-level athletes looking strong and healthy. There are also lots of people on meth that look strong and healthy, at least for a while. Here's the thing. You have to stop thinking about these types of things as black and white, yes or no, bad or good. Because you don't know anything if somebody is quote unquote on steroids. They could be on a doctor prescribed physiological amount of testosterone, or they could be taking 5 grams of testosterone a day. Now, that's probably not, but the point being that this is a spectrum. How much drugs you're using are going to play a huge impact on whether or not you have significant long-term health outcomes. But objectively, steroids do cause negative long-term outcomes. Do you think it is difficult to have a career or make a living off of bodybuilding and powerlifting? It's pretty much impossible. To my knowledge, I don't think there's a single powerlifter in the world that makes all of their income solely off of sponsorship and prize money from winning meets. And the amount of bodybuilders who do that, I mean, it's probably less than 30, because only the biggest shows give you decent prize money. Winning a pro show, you might get like 30 grand. Winning the Olympia, you could get over 100 grand. There's not that many people winning the Olympia and winning pro shows. However, most people can parlay a successful bodybuilding and powerlifting career as a competitor into a profitable job as a personal trainer or coach for people who want to be involved in the sport themselves. How to improve my soft skills? Bro, I lift weights. I am not a hiring manager. That said, these days, the self-help industry has a million books, and some of them are actually pretty good. So it just depends on which soft skill that you need to improve, and you can go find a book about it. There are great books in the time management section. There are great books in the section of like how to be better with people. There are great books about creativity. There's great books about leadership. So that is probably where I would personally start. I would head on over to the self-help section. Maybe not literally, like you could probably do that on Amazon or on Audible. I like audiobooks myself. And pick a book that seems reasonable and try to implement the strategies in the book and see if they help. Alrighty, folks, that is it for today's Q&A. A good session besides the squats, which sort of casts a shadow on the rest of it for me personally. But I really do believe that with a better setup next time, slightly wider stance than the stance I normally use, and a little bit more emphasis on keeping my chest up and setting back a touch, because I tend to get forward on my toes when I do safety bar squats, that I will be able to get 5, if not 6 reps at that weight next time. So I'll be doing another 3 to 5 sessions or so, and then probably taking a 5 to 7 day active rest, and then getting back on cycle, and then the fun should really start. With that said, let's do the ads. If you guys enjoy the Q&A, please remember to like the video when it comes out on YouTube. If you'd like to become a more substantial supporter of the Q&A, you can become a Patreon for $1 a month. If you'd like to work with me directly for coaching, send me a DM on Instagram for fastest reply. And if you'd like to check out any of my older ebooks, you can find a link in my bio on Instagram or in the description box on YouTube. So until next time, folks, have a good one.